was God in the flesh. God. It's important. Now, let's see why. Hebrews 4:14 and 15. Seeing then that we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. You got that? He was able to sympathize with our weaknesses because he was human, yet while he was tempted, he did not sin. Here's the deal. If Jesus was just God, manifest, just God, then he wasn't really tempted. See? Then that makes the Bible not true. If he was just a man who just lived a really, really good life, then maybe he could have died for himself, but not for us. If he was just a man, not good enough. If he was just God, he could not sympathize. But he was the God-man. He gave us a perfect example. Very important scripture to know. John 5:8, the Gospel of John 5:8. Jesus said to him, rise, take up your bed, and walk. That's the God-man. If we do that today, if we see someone healed today, it will not be because of a faith healer who is able to say, I can pray and you can be healed. Somebody take off my coat and blow him on the floor. I ain't making fun. You watch TV, you see that. They act like it's them. It's God. I believe in healing. I believe in faith healing. But I believe in faith in God to heal, not faith in a man. Ever. Ever. And we see healings. But don't ever, anybody in this room, don't ever take credit for it. Point like that. John 9:10 and 11. John 9:10 and 11. Therefore they said to him, to the formerly blind man, how were your eyes open? And he answered, a man called Jesus made some clay, anointed my eyes, and said to me, go wash in the pool of Siloam, and go to the pool of Siloam and wash. So I went, and I received my sight. Blinded eyes made to see. The lame made to walk. John 11:43 and 44, last one. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus said to him, loose him, let him go. Now this is just very simple, very similar to point number one. Many of you already know what's coming, right? In the Old Testament, the power of God was manifest in the creation and with miracles. In the New Testament, God is manifest as a man who can now sympathize with us. And a part of the sympathy of Jesus was his compassion to do the miracles of healing the lame, healing the blind, and raising the dead. Now I have a question. Did Jesus have to die to perform miracles in the New Testament? No. He was still walking around. He was still alive, and the miracles were being performed. Anybody remember the sermon title? Why Jesus had to die. Here, we're getting there now. Why didn't he just do this great stuff and we would believe in him? Why couldn't he live forever on the earth and we could make a trek, we could make a pilgrimage and go see this old man sitting in a room somewhere, and he would, when you walked in, he would say, hi, Jeff, hi, Tanya. And you would go, you've never seen us before. And he would say, I've known you your whole life. He would just be Jesus, and he would know everything, and there would be lines of people in wheelchairs and on hospital beds with IV poles, and on the other side there would be a pile of wheelchairs and hospital beds and IV poles no longer in use because he could just keep being it without dying. Why did he have to die? Has that question ever even entered your head? Wow. It's the point today. The concept of God dying for mankind. The concept of God dying for mankind. Luke 2:34 and 35. Then Simeon, this is the old man who lived around the temple, Simeon and Anna. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary his mother, behold, this child is destined for the fall and rising of many in Israel, and for a sign which will be spoken against. Yes, a sword will pierce through your own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Do you know what Simeon was prophesying to Mary? That she would see the death of her son. That the day he dies, as hard as his death is going to be, it's going to be like somebody piercing you with a sword as well. Now, John 19:25 and 26. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. Then Jesus therefore saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved, being John. He said to his mother, Woman, behold your son. And then he said to John, behold your mother. Take her, help her. That's what he was saying. But I also put into that all those memories, all the things, Jesus growing up as a child, becoming a man, distancing himself from his family for a time because they didn't understand that it all came flooding back that day, and Mary was reminded, he is not my son. He's mine for a period of time because God chose me to take on the most extraordinary job ever. This is God himself, the mother of God. There's a song, it's modern, the comedian wrote it. Mary, did you know that when you kiss your little boy, you kiss the face of God? Good theology in that song. Good theology in that song. The great miracles of the Old and New Testament did not require an incarnate God at all. God could have sat in heaven and performed the miracles. Jesus didn't even have to come. But in order for Jesus to die, this is the question. In order for Jesus to die for my sins, and in order for him to die at all, did that require him to be born? It did. In order to die, he had to be born. And I'm telling you, I'm guilty. I'm guilty as charged. It's easy for me to overlook the birth of Jesus, looking to the death of Jesus. You can't have that without this. You don't need that until Jesus is born. And say, why didn't he just walk out of the desert? Why didn't he just come as a man? He would have been God. He just would have been manifestation of God in a human form. That's what he did that in the Old Testament. Hello? He would just show up. A human form, God. We call that a theophany. But in the New Testament, to be real, he had to be born so that he could live life. He had to hit his thumb with a hammer and go, ow! He had to fall on the rocks and skin his knees. He was normal, human being. But he grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man, Luke 2:52. And he came to the place of saying to his family, I must be about my Father's business. I've come here on purpose, for purpose. The final text we read today shows the contrast between the birth and death of Jesus. Jesus could have just appeared on the scene. I said that. But he would not have fulfilled the understanding of Hebrews 4. The birth, life experience, and death of Jesus were all very, very necessary. And I know sometimes we don't really focus on the theological side of Christmas. We have little children singing and we say, oh, they're cute. Christmas programs. I plan to be here. I expect next week there'll be people here that won't be here any other time. They come to church. If there's not poinsettias, they go, what's wrong? Where's the red flowers? Because they come for Christmas programs. We see the gifts and the Christmas programs as a deflection away from Jesus rather than a reflection of what